Imagine that from the time you were little, you've been playing with a baseball. You've learned how to throw it, how to catch it, and how to hit it with a bat. You've also figured out the basic rules of playing the game of baseball, how players take turns hitting the ball and running around the bases to earn points. But there's a whole lot more to baseball than just that. There are names for the different players and the positions they play. You could say, the guy who stands between second and third base. But it's quicker and easier to say, the shortstop. And when you say that term, everybody in baseball knows which player you're talking about. There are labels for types of activity on the field, too. For example, a double play or a sacrifice fly. And there are many more terms that baseball fans and players use to save time and effort during a game. The more you understand those terms, the better you understand baseball. Well, in a similar way, the study of grammar is simply learning the terms and labels for language. We could say, the word that describes a person or a place or a thing, but it's quicker and easier to say the adjective. The more your student understands those terms, the better he will understand language and grow in the art of using language well. Let's see how Charlotte Mason approached the study of grammar. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonia Schaefer. From the time your children were young, they have been listening to language. As you have talked with them, they've become more and more familiar with how the language sounds and how the words work together to convey ideas. As your child grows, he begins to try to use language for himself. Well, at first, it's just nonsense syllables, but in time, his mind puts together the pieces and fine-tunes his knowledge at an astonishing pace. And by the time he's 4 or 5, he can probably communicate his thoughts pretty clearly. During the first couple of years of formal lessons, your student is focused on adding the skills of reading and handwriting to his language repertoire. We've talked about those aspects of language arts in other episodes. Check the description for links. While your student is strengthening his reading and handwriting skills, we're careful not to overload him by introducing other studies in language yet. These are the years to lay the foundation of good English usage through conversations and copywork and great books. At about the 3rd grade level, we can gently introduce a closer study. Charlotte Mason began by teaching the parts of a simple sentence, the subject and what is said about the subject. We can also guide the student to discover basic punctuation and capitalization guidelines. For example, we might have him look at 3 or 4 sentences in a book that he's reading and direct his attention to the first letter of each sentence. What do you notice about the first letter in each sentence, we can ask? By approaching this study of directing his attention and allowing him to make discoveries for himself, we encourage the student to form personal relations with those guidelines. It's a much different approach than handing your student a list of guidelines and definitions and requiring him to memorize them. And that guided discovery approach carries through as your student learns more and more about the grammar of the English language in 4th grade and on. We direct the student's attention to particular words and help him observe how they are used, and then we provide the grammatical term or label for it. Lessons are short, and they use sentences from good living books as examples. In fact, I like to use the same passages for grammar study as I use for dictation and spelling. Check the description for a link to the episode on spelling if you haven't watched that already. Here's an example of what a grammar lesson might look like in, about 5th grade. Give the student a few lines from a Shakespeare play to read. A wretched soul, bruised with adversity, we bid be quiet when we hear it cry. But were we burdened with like weight of pain? As much or more, we should ourselves complain. First, we review a grammar term that he has already learned. We could ask, can you find two nouns in the first line? Yes, soul and adversity. Then we can explain a new term. The second line contains the little word it. It is a pronoun. A pronoun is a word that is used in place of a noun. To what noun in the first line does it refer? That's right, soul. That's enough at this level. We've planted the seed of an idea, and it will be brought up again in future lessons. After that little grammar touch, we assign a portion or all of that Shakespeare passage to be studied for dictation. By using passages from good living books, we make sure we are feeding our students' minds with good and noble ideas, even in their grammar and spelling lessons. Then we continue grammar lessons through 8th grade, observing how language is used, learning the terms for those different situations, and studying the flexible relationships between words. In 9th grade, the student will be challenged to focus mainly on the application of what he has learned by evaluating and editing his own writing through his composition lessons. The series of books called Using Language Well, 2nd edition, give you grammar and spelling lessons like this. You can start Book 1 when your student is reading and writing at a 3rd grade level. Complete just 2 lessons per week, guiding your student to make grammar discoveries. And watch him grow in the art of using language well. Check the description for links. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.